It was just another night on the road. My rig, an old Peterbilt, rumbled steadily down Interstate 40. It was around 2 a.m., and the roads were empty, save for the occasional car speeding past. I had been hauling freight across the country for years, and the nights were nothing new to me. The silence of the highway had become a sort of comforting companion. But that night, something felt off. It started with the headlights. I saw them in my rearview mirror, a set of bright lights far too close for comfort. I checked the time, 2:03 a.m. There was no way anyone should be that close on a stretch of road as desolate as this. I wasn't paranoid, but I knew the area well. There were no gas stations, no towns for miles. The lights behind me didn't change. They stayed steady, almost unnervingly so, as if the driver knew exactly where I was going and was in no rush to pass. I took a quick glance at the side mirror, nothing. The road was clear. But in the rear view, those lights were still there. I pushed the pedal down, trying to lose them, but the more I sped up, the closer they seemed to get. It was impossible for anyone to be going this fast without passing me. But they didn't. They stayed right behind me. I cursed under my breath and picked up the CB radio. Any truckers out there? Anyone near I-40 eastbound, past El Reno? Static. I tried again, louder this time, hoping someone else would be on the line. Any truckers? This is Redwood hauling freight. Anyone around? More static. Then, a voice, calm and smooth, came through the radio. Gotcha, Redwood. Keep it cool. You're not alone out there. I froze. The voice wasn't familiar. It was a calm, almost monotone voice, with an unsettling tone to it. It wasn't a local trucker, and there was no other vehicle in sight. My heart began to race. I glanced back in the mirror, still nothing. But then, I saw it. The lights weren't just headlights anymore. They were growing, expanding. Almost like something was moving toward me, pulling closer. I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back. The radio crackled again. Don't look back, Redwood. Keep driving. Just keep driving. I didn't know who was on the other end, but they were right. Something was wrong. I wasn't alone anymore. I slammed the gas pedal to the floor. The engine roared as I pushed the truck faster, but the lights only grew brighter. It was like they were drawing closer with every mile. In that moment, I knew I had to keep going. There was no turning back. Whatever this was, I had to survive. It's hard to explain how it felt. The sensation that someone, or something, was just behind you, breathing down your neck without a sound. Every mile felt longer than the last, as if the road itself was stretching out to keep me from escaping. The lights kept getting closer, and the air inside the cab grew colder. My breath fogged up the window, even though the heater was blasting. And then I saw it. A figure. A man. He was standing on the shoulder of the road, facing me, just far enough that I could see his silhouette in the beam of my headlights. But there was something about him that didn't sit right. His clothes were torn, his face obscured in shadow. His posture was stiff, unnatural. Almost like he was waiting. I should have turned the wheel. I should have swerved, but I couldn't. Something kept me from looking away. My foot pressed harder on the pedal, my hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. The figure never moved, just stood there, staring. It wasn't until I was almost on top of him that he finally did something. He raised one hand, slowly, pointing directly at my truck. I slammed my foot down on the brakes, the truck groaning in protest as I tried to avoid the strange figure. But as soon as I moved my eyes away from him to swerve, the figure was gone. Just like that. I hit the brakes, swerving hard, nearly losing control, and finally, after what felt like an eternity, I regained the lane. But the lights, they were still there. Still chasing me. I had no idea what I was dealing with. All I knew was that I couldn't stop. If I stopped, I wouldn't survive. I turned the radio back on, desperately trying to hear anything that could guide me, but there was only static. And then, that voice again. "Keep going, Redwood. You're almost there." But where? Where was there? The road stretched endlessly before me. And whatever I was running from wasn't going to let me out of its sight. I kept my eyes fixed on the road ahead, the headlights of my rig cutting through the thick darkness like a knife. My fingers were starting to cramp from gripping the wheel so tight, but I couldn't let go. Not for a second. That voice, that damn voice, had been right. The lights had stayed with me the entire time, almost as though they were tracking my every move. And that figure, standing by the roadside, had left me shaken. What kind of man just stands out there in the dead of night, pointing at a truck? As I pushed the truck to its limits, I kept scanning the horizon for any sign of life, hoping to see a truck stop, a diner, anything. I was desperate for a safe place. But the highway stretched on forever, and there was nothing. Just endless stretches of asphalt and shadows. It was like I was driving through an empty world, and the more I tried to escape, the tighter the grip around me seemed to become. The radio crackled again, cutting through my racing thoughts. "You're not alone, Redwood. You've seen the figure. You've heard the whispers. Keep your eyes on the road. Don't stop." I wanted to scream. Who was this person? Why were they telling me this? But I knew better than to argue. I had learned the hard way that silence was safer when you were on the road at night. I tried to focus, to push the fear down, but the unease kept building inside me like a ticking clock. Every nerve in my body was on edge. And then, through the mist of exhaustion and terror, something new happened. The lights behind me began to flicker, like someone was turning them on and off, almost playfully. The feeling of being chased, of being hunted, was suffocating. Every instinct I had told me that I was being herded, like a trapped animal. The faster I went, the more it felt like the lights were pushing me. I glanced at the mirrors again. And this time, I saw something different. It was a face in the headlights. Just a flash, a glimpse of something pale and twisted staring back at me through the glow. A scream caught in my throat, but I choked it down, barely able to focus on the road. I had to stay in control. I had to survive. I swerved to the left, my rig shaking under the stress, hoping for some sort of relief. But the lights moved with me. The face. It didn't disappear. It lingered in the reflection of my mirrors, always there, watching. And then it happened. A loud crash, metal against metal. I yanked the wheel hard to the right, but it was too late. The truck lurched, the tires screaming as I fought to regain control. A strange, horrible weight settled on the cab as if something had collided with my rig. But when I checked the mirrors again, there was nothing. Just empty road. I couldn't breathe. My mind was spiraling into madness. "Redwood." The voice crackled through the radio again. "It's not over. It's just begun." My heart hammered in my chest as I searched the road ahead. That voice, it knew. It knew everything. I wasn't alone on this road. And whatever was chasing me wasn't going to stop until it had me. I could feel my pulse thumping in my ears, drowning out everything else. The engine roared beneath me, but it felt like the sound was coming from a different world, distant and muffled. The road stretched ahead like an endless black tunnel, and the only thing that mattered now was surviving. The truck's headlights flickered again, and I quickly checked the rearview mirror. There was no sign of the figure. No sign of anything but those same bright, relentless headlights following me. But now, something was different. It wasn't just a chase anymore. It was as though the road itself had become a prison, pulling me deeper into its dark maw. I gripped the wheel tighter, the smooth metal beneath my palms slick with sweat. My eyes darted from mirror to mirror, scanning for any movement, but the highway was empty. Too empty. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I realized I hadn't heard a single other vehicle in miles. Not a single tire screech. No other engine hum. And then the voice came again, cutting through the static like a knife. "You're almost there, Redwood. Keep moving. Don't stop." But the message didn't comfort me anymore. It only filled me with dread. What did it mean, almost there? As I drove, the headlights behind me began to grow brighter, almost blinding. I had no choice but to squint, trying to push through the glare. And then, just as I was about to give in to panic, the light suddenly disappeared. Just vanished. The relief was immediate, but it didn't last. A strange, guttural sound came from the depths of the darkness ahead. It was low, almost like a growl, but it was too faint to be sure. My stomach tightened. The road had started to feel alive, pulsing beneath my tires, pushing me forward. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought I saw something in the distance. A figure, standing alone, silhouetted by the faint glow of the rig's headlights. But it wasn't just one figure this time. There were more. Several shapes, indistinct but unmistakable, lined up along the shoulder of the road. I blinked, hoping my exhaustion was playing tricks on me, but when I looked again, they were still there. Moving. I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching as the truck came to a halt. The figures were too far away to make out their details, but I could feel their eyes on me, all of them. Watching. Waiting. My mind raced, trying to make sense of what was happening, but I couldn't. I'd heard rumors of strange things on the roads, but this was something else entirely. "Don't stop," the voice whispered again. "Don't ever stop." But it was too late. I had already stopped. The figures were closing in. Slowly at first, but with a menacing speed that made my blood run cold. I had to act fast. I slammed the truck into gear and gunned the engine, the tires spinning against the pavement. But the truck wasn't moving. It felt like something had a hold of it, pulling it back. The figures were getting closer, their outlines becoming more defined with every passing second. They were men, maybe. But their movements were too smooth, too unnatural. The way they glided across the road didn't make sense. They were closing in too quickly, and I couldn't do anything to stop them. I looked down at the dashboard, praying for a sign, for anything to give me an escape. But then something caught my eye, a faint reflection in the side mirror. A face. Pale, hollow eyes staring back at me. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't the face of a man. It was something other. A thing, born from the darkness itself. And that's when I realized, I wasn't alone anymore. The truck lurched again, this time with a violent force that nearly threw me from my seat. The figure in the mirror was gone, but the air inside the cab felt thick, oppressive. The shadows in the corners of my eyes seemed to twitch and stretch. The figures outside were so close now. Their pale faces, their empty eyes, their mouths twisted in grotesque, inhuman shapes. I could hear their breaths, shallow and rasping, as they surrounded the rig. The truck was shaking violently now, and I realized with a sickening dread that they were trying to get inside. I had to move. I slammed the truck into drive again, this time not caring about the damage. I pushed the pedal down harder, feeling the truck's engine roar beneath me. But it didn't matter. The figures were still there, their hands reaching for the windows, their faces pressing against the glass. And then, just as I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the lights behind me flared up again, blinding me, and the figures retreated into the shadows. I could see nothing but white light. It felt like I was being pulled into another world, dragged across the threshold of some hell I couldn't escape from. And just as quickly as it had started, the lights went out. The road was empty again. I was shaking uncontrollably, my hands numb on the wheel. My breath came in shallow gasps, the only sound in the cab the pounding of my own heartbeat. I couldn't tell if what had just happened was real. The figures, the strange, otherworldly presence surrounding me, had I imagined it all? Or had I truly been surrounded by something not human? The terror I felt wasn't the kind you can explain. It was primal, an instinct telling me that I was not supposed to be here. But I didn't have time to question it. Whatever had just happened, it wasn't over. Not yet. And the voice, that voice, was still in my head. Keep going, Redwood. You're almost there. But where? What was there? What was waiting for me at the end of this nightmare? I pushed the truck forward again, the engine growling beneath me, but the road ahead seemed to stretch on forever. There were no lights. No signs of civilization. It was like I was driving into the heart of nothingness. The headlights of the rig cut through the darkness, but it didn't feel like it was enough. It wasn't a road I was driving on anymore, it was an endless, black void. I kept my eyes straight ahead, determined not to look in the mirrors, determined not to look to the side where the shadows still clung like an ever-present fog. And then, the lights returned. This time, they weren't far behind. No. This time, they were right next to me. I whipped my head to the side, expecting to see another truck, a car, something, anything, but there was nothing. Nothing but the lights, hovering in the darkness beside me. The air grew heavy again, as if the very atmosphere was pressing in on me, suffocating me. The voice came again. This time, it was softer, more distant. You're almost there, Redwood. Almost where? My panic swelled. I had to get out. I had to get off this road. I hit the gas again, pushing the truck as hard as it would go, but the lights stayed with me. They didn't fade. They didn't move. They hovered in the air, beside me, just out of reach. I thought I could hear something else now, scratching noises, soft tapping, like fingers running along the side of the truck. I couldn't take it anymore. I slammed the wheel to the left, yanking the truck onto the shoulder, desperately trying to break free of whatever was chasing me. The tires screeched, the rig shaking under the pressure, but I didn't stop. Not until I saw it, finally, in the distance, a sign. A sign that I was almost to a town. A town I didn't recognize, but one that felt like salvation. The road was ending. I could see it now. The headlights behind me flickered for the last time, and the strange, eerie feeling began to recede. This was it. I had made it. But as I slowed the truck down, preparing to pull off the highway, the voice returned, louder this time. It's not over, Redwood. It will never be over. I froze. My eyes widened. I couldn't stop staring at the sign ahead. There was no town. The sign said nothing. Just an empty space. And when I looked back at the road I had just driven, I couldn't see the way I came. The highway stretched out in front of me, endlessly, as if the whole night had been a loop. I wasn't leaving. I was still trapped. The truck jerked to a stop again, and I saw something in the rearview mirror, something that made my blood run cold. The figure from before, the one who had pointed at me, was standing in the middle of the road. But now, there was no mistaking it. The face was clear. Twisted. Pale eyes hollow and dark, like empty pits. Its mouth stretched unnaturally wide, too wide, and it grinned at me, a grin that promised nothing but terror. The radio crackled once more. The voice didn't sound calm anymore. It was desperate. You have to go, Redwood. They'll never let you leave. No one who drives this road ever leaves. They take you. Forever. I slammed my foot on the gas again, but this time it wasn't fast enough. The figure in the mirror started to move, its limbs bending at impossible angles as it lunged toward me. I barely had time to react before a dark, skeletal hand wrapped around the truck's cab, pulling it backward with terrifying strength. The truck shook violently, the headlights flashing erratically as if something, or someone, was pulling it off the road. "Goodbye, Redwood," the voice whispered, now nothing more than a faint memory. And just like that, the road disappeared beneath me. I woke up with a jolt, my body stiff and sore, as though I'd been driving for hours or maybe days. My hands still gripped the steering wheel, but the truck, it wasn't moving anymore. The engine was off, and the road was quiet, too quiet. The weight of what had just happened felt too heavy to be real. I could still see the twisted figure, hear the voice. But now, I was somewhere new. I blinked, trying to shake off the fog in my head. My eyes shot to the road ahead. The sign I had seen earlier, the one I thought I was racing toward, was gone. Instead, I was surrounded by nothing but darkness and empty highway stretching out forever. It didn't make sense. I should have been at a truck stop, or at least a town. There was no explanation for what had happened, no rational way to understand any of it. I checked the dashboard. The clock had stopped. The time was frozen at 3:17 a.m. But that didn't feel right either. I remembered clearly looking at the time earlier, 2:03 a.m. The same time the chase started. Something was wrong. Something was terribly wrong. I pulled the key from the ignition, but the truck didn't stop. It stayed on, humming quietly as if nothing had happened. I tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. It was stuck, like the truck itself was holding me prisoner. I hammered the handle with my fist, but it didn't move. I looked around, trying to make sense of it. But the darkness, it was alive. It wasn't just dark, there were shapes in it. Moving shadows, stretching and writhing as though something unseen was slithering beneath the surface. And then, a sound. A soft tapping, almost rhythmic, like fingers tapping against glass. I jerked my head to the window, and that's when I saw it. The figure from earlier. It was right outside. The pale face, twisted and distorted, pressed against the glass, its black eyes staring directly into mine. It didn't blink, didn't move, just stood there, its smile widening with every passing second. I couldn't breathe. The tapping grew louder, frantic. The figure reached out, its hand pressing flat against the glass. Its fingers stretched and curled like they were made of rubber, impossibly long. And then, the voice again. The voice I had tried to forget, the one that had warned me, that had told me to keep driving. "You're not getting out, Redwood. Not now. Not ever." The window cracked. A hairline fracture appeared, and then the glass shattered with an ear-splitting sound, the pieces scattering across the floor of the cab. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrambled backward, my legs hitting the gear shift. But I couldn't move fast enough. The figure's hand shot through the shattered glass, its fingers curling around the edge of the door, pulling it open with unnatural strength. And then, the voice came again, louder this time, echoing in my ears. "You're mine now." The hand reached inside, grabbing my wrist with an icy grip that sent a shock through my body, freezing me in place. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. It was like the fear had completely paralyzed me, leaving me trapped in this endless nightmare. With a strength that defied anything human, the figure yanked me out of the truck and threw me to the ground. I landed hard, pain shooting through my side as I gasped for air. I looked up, trying to gather my bearings. And that's when I saw it. The road. It was different now. The asphalt beneath me was cracked and broken, the lines faded, and the sky above was swirling, an unnatural vortex of dark clouds and lightning. This wasn't the highway I had been driving on. This wasn't even a place I recognized. It was as if I had been transported into another realm entirely. And there, standing before me, were more of them, figures. Hundreds, maybe thousands, all standing in a circle around me, their hollow eyes trained on my every move. Their skin was pale, almost translucent, and their smiles stretched unnaturally wide, like they were all in on a secret I could never understand. I tried to run, to fight, but it was no use. I was trapped. One of the figures leaned forward, its voice cold and cruel. "You should have stopped, Redwood. You should have listened." The ground beneath me rumbled, and I realized with a sickening dread that the road was no longer there. It had become something else, something alive. The earth cracked open, a black void opening wide beneath me, pulling at my feet like it was hungry for my soul. I reached for the truck, desperate to get back, but it was gone. The rig had disappeared, swallowed by the darkness. And the more I fought, the deeper the ground opened, like I was being dragged into some kind of hellish abyss. And then, just as the darkness closed in around me, I heard the voice again. It wasn't on the radio this time. It was inside my head. "You'll never leave this road, Redwood. You're one of us now." I tried to scream, but no sound came. The last thing I saw was the twisted faces of the figures, their grins widening as I was pulled into the endless dark. And now, I drive. Forever. I should have known better. I should have stopped. But once you're on this road, once you've driven too far, there's no way out. Not really. Not for me. It's strange, but the more I drive, the more it feels like time doesn't matter anymore. The clock's hands never move. The road stretches on forever, bending and twisting through a place that doesn't belong in this world. It's as if I'm trapped in a nightmare that loops and repeats itself, a cycle I can't break. I don't know how long it's been since that last encounter, whether it's been hours, days, or years. But I can tell you this much, it's never the same. Every time I look at the road ahead, it feels like a new terror waits for me. Sometimes, it's the faces in the shadows, watching me. Sometimes, it's the whispers I hear on the wind, calling my name. I've seen more of them now, the figures. Not just the one I encountered before. There are hundreds of them, sometimes thousands, lining the roadsides. They don't just stand there anymore. They move. They reach out, pulling at the air as if trying to drag me into the void with them. Their faces, always pale, twisted into grotesque, mocking grins, have become a part of my every waking moment. It's like they're always with me, just beyond the edge of my vision, always watching, always waiting for me to lose control. And the voice, that voice, it never stops. "You're one of us now," it says. Every time. "You'll never leave." I've tried everything, tried to drive off the road, tried to make a break for it, but every time, the world bends. The darkness closes in around me, and I end up right back where I started. No matter how fast I go, no matter how far, I always end up on this same stretch of highway, under the same dark sky. The same endless road that will never lead me home. The truck, my Peterbilt, is still with me. But now, it's not just my vehicle. It feels like a part of this place, like the truck is as cursed as the road. The tires never wear out. The engine never fails. It's like the truck is alive, and somehow, it's feeding off this nightmare too. Sometimes, I think I see other trucks on the road, figures in the distance, drivers who look like they're in a trance, just like me. But when I get closer, they vanish, like smoke. And I know, deep down, that I'm not the only one stuck here. No one else can see it. No one else understands. It's a road for people like me, people who've gone too far. It doesn't matter how hard I try to escape, or how many times I slam on the brakes. There's no end to this place. No escape. But the worst part? Sometimes, I see myself in the rearview mirror. It's not a reflection. It's not just my face staring back at me. It's the other me. The one who's already lost. The one who was here long before I ever took the wheel. And it grins at me. Just like the figures on the side of the road. "You'll never leave, Redwood," it whispers, the voice a perfect echo of my own. And in those moments, I understand. I know. Because I'm no longer the driver. I'm the one who haunts the road. The end. Or perhaps just the beginning of another endless stretch.